Hey, this is Nate Peterson with my final presentation for the semester for CI 260. Thanks, Brother DeBry, for being our instructor this semester. I really got a lot out of your method of teaching, I think, and I really appreciate it. Well, let's just get started right away, get into this, and we want to start off talking about static class methods and static variables. A static method or variable is identified by the word static in the variable and method signature, and they can be accessed without the need to create an instance of their class. And any other class or instance of a class has access to a static method or variable. And so in the code example, we have here a couple instances or a couple examples. The first one is an example of setting a static variable of a game class, and we set it initially to null, and then we have getters and setters that are static for that game class. So it can get a game or set a game. Moving on next to this non-static instance methods and variables. A non-static method does not have the keyword static in the variable or method signature. And a non-static method belongs to an instance of a class. Therefore, you have to create an instance or an object of the class in order to access that. And with this, we have a couple code examples. In non-static variables on the left, we have just simple user input, an int user input set to 0, and a final int of max set to 5. And then on the right, we have a non-static method example from the main menu view class. And that is just a standard method of start new game that does not have the static identifier. And this start new game doesn't return anything, it's a void. And we have a couple things that it does. It just prints out welcome to the city of Erin and a couple things to get the game started. And so that's an example of non-static instance, non-static variables and methods. Moving on to different types of storage mechanisms or data storage mechanisms in Java. We have to first of all talk about a Java array. And a Java array is basically a fixed length data structure whose length cannot be changed once it is created. And so arrays in Java can contain objects or primitives, but a single array cannot contain multiple data types. So you can have an array of string objects or you can have an array of primitive ints, but you cannot have an array that mixes string objects or mix in with ints. And so Java arrays can also be multidimensional, so you can make them two-dimensional to simulate rows or columns. And so in this example we have the map class, and in the map class we have setting of a location array, which is a two-dimensional array, and this two-dimensional array will contain rows and columns that have information about the map. So we put information about the features on a map inside of this location array. And an array list. A Java array list is a dynamic length data structure. Objects can be added to or removed from an array list as necessary. And a Java array list can contain only objects, and it cannot contain primitive data types. Java array lists are always single dimensional, so it's always just a list of objects, basically. So in our example here, we have the game control class. In this game control class, we create an array of list item objects, and this list item has a name and a number associated with it. And so we have an example here of the setting an array list of list item objects for provisions. And we can see that later when we go through the program. And in Java enumeration. An enumeration is a collection of named items that do not change. For example, you can think of an enumeration, or you can think of days of the week as being an enumeration because they never change. They're always Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those are always going to be constant. They will never change. So when you have a list of things that you don't intend to change or will never change in the program, you can use them as an enumeration. And in the example here, we have the team member class, where we've set an enumeration to contain the names of the developers, because the names of the developers aren't ever going to change. They're always going to remain constant. And so that's why we put them in an enumeration. Moving on to a for loop. With a for loop, basically it's an iterative process that you can give it a collection of data, and this, when you send in a collection data, the loop will allow you to iterate over that collection, and it will go over each item in that collection. So you can access each item and read information from that data structure, or you can, in the case of an array list, you can add to it or you can take away from it. But in the example here, we have the game control class where we're setting up the map, and we're populating the map with map features like rivers and farmland, mountains and cities and forests and so forth. And so we loop over each of those features to populate the map grid with those land or map furniture features. And so that's how you do that with the for loops for each of those items. Moving on to Java error handling. With error handling, you can create custom exceptions that can be used for specific purposes. In our case, in this program, we created a custom crop exception to handle problems that may occur when using crop methods. And so we started off here with creating a custom exception called the crop exception class, and with that we provide a message to put out to the user if a crop exception does occur. And the crop exception extends the main Java exception class, which provides all of its methods and functionality to whatever custom exception you happen to be creating. And so with a crop exception, you have to make sure that you specify that the method you want to, have error handling in, you have to make sure that you specify to throw this particular exception, this crop exception. So in our method example here on the right, we have the method called doStoreHousePlunder. And the doStoreHousePlunder specifies that it throws a crop exception if there's a problem when the method runs. And so the problem is that we've specified is if this band of robbers comes in to plunder the storehouse, then you have to have something in there to plunder. If there's nothing there, then there's going to be a problem. So we have to throw that exception if there's no wheat to steal. And so the crop exception is you throw a new crop exception instance and we just give it a string of a message, so the message can be output to the user saying that why this can't be accomplished. And so we move on next to how we actually deal with those exceptions, and we do that by using try-catch statements. In the method, the storehouse plunder view, where we call the action method of doing the storehouse plunder, we do a try-catch, and we say with the try, we say try to do this, but if the method throws that crop exception, then catch it and then do this. So try-catch statements are how you accomplish your error handling. And moving on next to the Java character stream versus a byte stream. So a character stream is better suited for processing text files, while a byte stream is geared towards processing binary files. A good example of a byte stream would be used for processing image. A byte stream would be used for processing image files because they're binary files. And character stream is used to process text files. And the reason why you want to use a character stream is because you can have encoded characters for like the English language or a character-based language like an Eastern language. So it's better to use a character stream to print out or save files that are text-based files for that purpose. And in the example here, we have in the switch statement, we have case number 2 where we instantiate a print writer object, because a print writer is an example of a character stream, and we give that print writer a file name, provisions.txt. And so the provisions.txt will go, the for loop that's below that will populate that text file to write it to the disk. And so that's how we use the character stream to output files. So let's move on really quick to a game demonstration, and we'll go to the NetBeans and we'll start a new game just by running the program right up here, and we'll just start a new game, giving it option 1, and type in first name, and it says welcome Nate, have fun with the game. And we'll go off first and start looking at a map. Option 1. And so option 1 provides us with a village map. and you can see all the features of the map that I talked about previously, rivers and mountains and farmland and so forth. So we go to the next option. You can view or print a list. And so we can view a list of animals in the storehouse. And we can give us another option here. We can view the list or we can print the list. So let's just view the list on this one. And it gives us a list of cows, chickens, deers, horses, and pigs. So let's do a tool list. Let's look at the tools, and we can just view the list on that one. And it gives us a list of water wheels, axe, plows, windmills, all the tools that are available. And number 3, on this one, let's output the list to a file. So we'll do number 2, and it says that the provisions list was saved to the file provisions.txt. So let's go to our file system and see if we have a provisions.txt, and there it is. It printed out our provisions in the storehouse. Pretty neat. So let's go back to the game, and we can go back to the previous menu, and we can return to the main menu, and we can save the game. So let's try that. Save the game, and please enter a name for your saved game. We'll say saved-game.txt, and we'll go and see if the game got saved. And sure enough, there's our saved game right there that can be read in later to start a new game from. And if we go back, we can go ahead and just quit the game, and build was successful. We have a successful build of the program. Well, that's pretty much it for my final presentation. Just want to thank you again, Brother DeBry, for your great instruction this semester. And like I said, I do feel like I learned more than that I came into the course with, and I really appreciate that. Thanks again. Have a wonderful evening, wonderful holiday season.